I'm absolutely delighted to have the opportunity to say a few words to you and to welcome you. Perhaps over a year ago, Mr. James, who spoke to us earlier, came to my office and indicated that you wanted to host this event in St. Kitts and Nevis, and he wanted the participation of the Nevis Island administration. And we were very pleased that we had amongst us a young woman. I'm not sure where Sheila James was born, whether she was born here or she was born in Leeds. I like to think of her as my English friend. But we had her, and her competence is well known. And I said to Mr. James, I don't know if he's related to Sheila, but I said we have another James, Miss James, and perhaps she can be of assistance to you. And I'm absolutely delighted that what you're seeing is a consequence, a product, the end product, if you will, of that collaboration. I want you please to give Mr. James, Miss James, and the entire organizing committee a resounding round of applause. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this ANSAR journey for me has been quite instructive. I was in Montreal recently, and in speaking to some Nevisians and Kittitians in Montreal who are also Canadians, they indicated to me that they would be here for this celebration, and indeed I have seen some amongst this crowd. I realize that ANSAR, based on the dance that we saw put on earlier, that they have their own theme song, a calypso. I also realize that in their wisdom they have reversed the name. It used to be St. Kitts, Nevis, and Anguilla. They are now Anguilla, Nevis, St. Kitts. And so ANSAR is quite a powerful organization, having its own song and its ability to rename entire regions and territories. And I welcome them. I have learned quite a bit. For example, as I sat there, I saw whom I thought to be 10 Nevisians come out, only to be told that they're from Jamaica. I have known most of them for a very long time, and I always thought that they were from here. But perhaps that is indicative of our country of St. Kitts and Nevis, how warm and welcoming we are, that wherever you may come from, once you're here, you feel welcomed. You become a part of us. And I want to just take a moment, because I know that my time is not long, to comment on what Mr. James pointed out about remittances. I grew up in an area of Nevis called Brown Hill. I grew up at a time when everybody in Nevis was poor. And so we didn't know that we were poor because the next person was just as poor as you were. And this notion of remittances is interesting, because prior to growing up in Brown Hill, I spent some years of my youth in an area called Hanley's Road, where I was born. And in Hanley's Road, we had one merchant who had a shop, a man they used to call Mr. Thompson. And it was the only time that I am aware of that you could go and get groceries on credit. And we used to go by Mr. Thompson's shop and take the little rice and little flour and whatever else we needed. And then at the end of the month, when my dad sent that little money from New York, we would go and we would pay Mr. Thompson. Those days, they didn't have up the signs which said credit is dead. You used to be able to get credit in those days. But when we moved to Brown Hill, I remember that my siblings and I used to stay on our little porch, and we used to count at Christmas time the number of barrels going into Brown Hill. Barrels from St. Thomas, from St. Croix, from St. Martin, even sometimes barrels from England. You know how many sweaters I don't wear from England? You know how hot it is in Nevis, and you put on turtleneck sweater on top of that? But of course, that was fashionable. If you could wear an English sweater in the noonday sun in Nevis, well, who was more fashionable than you? But ladies and gentlemen, that was symbolic of the remittances. You see, remittances were not only money. Remittances were people sending home clothing and food. And I've always said to the people who live here that we ought never to forget the contribution that our diaspora has made to our well-being. I welcome you home, ladies and gentlemen. You would have last been here celebrating 10 years ago. I welcome you to a prosperous St. Kitts and Nevis. I was very pleased recently to comment that under the stewardship of Prime Minister Harris, as our Prime Minister and our Minister of Finance, that St. Kitts and Nevis now has its highest GDP per capita that it has ever experienced in the history of our country. We, ladies and gentlemen, have the highest rate of growth in the OECS. We have the most important, influential, popular, and sought-after passport in the entire Eastern Caribbean. It is a very good time to be from St. Kitts and Nevis. And if you doubt it, just walk the streets of St. Kitts and Nevis. You hear now all kinds of languages, Spanish and French, Dutch and Papiamento. All kinds of languages, all kinds of people are gravitating towards our country. And so I use my few moments here at the podium today to say to you, welcome home. Because if St. Kitts and Nevis has now become good enough, prosperous enough, that we are welcoming people from other lands to come here, then it must mean that it is time for you who are out there also to come home and be a part of what we're doing here in our country. I say this last thing, that I am very fond of people in the diaspora. Because in my own interaction, whether I've gone to Canada, I've been to the US Virgin Islands, United States, United Kingdom, wherever it is that our people have gathered, I come away with the same conclusion, that our people have never left St. Kitts and Nevis in their hearts and in their minds. They may have relocated physically for purposes of advancing themselves economically or educationally, but they have never forgotten these two islands that bore them. They have never forgotten Anguilla, from whence they came. And so I want to say that this bond, this umbilical cord that connects us, can never be broken. And as transportation links increase, as it becomes easier to travel, as we now have the benefit of technology, the time has never been better for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, and indeed the people of Anguilla, wherever you happen to live, to make your contribution. I am not just talking about remittances, although I noted when Mr. James spoke, and he said that St. Kitts and Nevis people send home more money than anybody else. I said, that's because we have a lot of rich people in the diaspora. Because you must have plenty money if you could send home plenty money. So we have a wealth of finances in the diaspora. And we welcome your investment in St. Kitts and Nevis. But that's not all. We also have a wealth of knowledge. We have a tremendous reservoir of capacity. We have a lot of bright people from St. Kitts, Nevis and Anguilla who have excelled in every field imaginable. You have doctors and lawyers and dentists and engineers and technicians of every sort, university professors. And one of the things that I've always commented on, that in our country, we are continually inviting people from elsewhere to come in to do studies and to give advice, when our own people in the diaspora have the expertise to offer that to us. So, my final pitch to you is keep sending the remittances, because we like that. Keep investing, because we like that. But more than that, please offer us your skills, your tremendous abilities, all the learning and knowledge that you would have acquired living in larger and in some respects more sophisticated societies. We, at this stage in our development, need those skills right here. And so we invite you to invest in St. Kitts and in Nevis. We invite you to invest in Anguilla. We invite you to be a part of the tapestry that is our country. It is our country. It is your country. And we welcome you as you go around today here in Nevis to look at the development that you would have seen. This very edifice that we are seated in. I recalled that I brought a man here called Stephen Bird. And he came here, he's a producer of Broadway plays in New York. And when he came through the doors, he said, my God, this is beautiful. Because even in major countries, they don't have a facility such as this that can seat 400 people in comfort to enjoy all the arts and the plays that we have to offer. This is one tangible sign of the progress that we would have made. When you drive around Nevis today, go visit all the historic sites. See the Four Seasons that has been purchased by Bill Gates and even now is undergoing a $40 million renovation. And then as you leave and you go back to St. Kitts, take some time and see the Park Hyatt. Brand new, the first ever Park Hyatt in the Caribbean. Right there in Sugar City, St. Kitts. We have, ladies and gentlemen, a lot that we can be proud of. We have good government. We have transparent government. We have respect for the rule of law. We have respect for our Constitution. We have governments that change. And since you last were here, we changed government in Nevis. We changed government in St. Kitts. You hear any problems? No problems. Because we have a mature democracy. And I believe that St. Kitts and Nevis have much that all of us can be proud of and much that all of us can boast of. And so I thank you for being here. I welcome all of you to my island, the island of Nevis. And I ask that you have a wonderful celebration for ANSAR. And I hope that I'm privileged enough to spend a bit of that with you, either here or on our sister island of St. Kitts. I wish you all the very best, God's blessings, and a wonderful, wonderful celebration for your 18th anniversary of ANSAR. Thank you, and God bless you.
Stay up to date with news, programs, and activities of the government with SKNIS. Like us on Facebook. Listen to us on SoundCloud. Follow us on Twitter. And watch our videos on YouTube. Connect with us today. SKNIS, St. Kitts and Nevis Information Service.